Update. My boss just reacted to my message asking for a raise with haha. Original post. I posted here a while ago asking if having a salary of $13,000 a month in local currency, about $224 as a software developer, was enough. I'm a graduating student, and this company hired me after my internship. When I accepted the role, I expected to do the same tasks I did during my internship, so I thought the pay was fair. But then they assigned me more complex tasks, like creating a payroll system, which required studying thousands of lines of code, hundreds of tables, and understanding the entire process from scratch. Keep in mind, it's just me and my senior on the team. I took it as a challenge and slowly started to enjoy it, but now I feel like the minimum salary isn't enough since I'm handling multiple projects, and my responsibilities have significantly increased. Today I finally got the courage to message my boss and ask if a raise was possible. I was polite, simply asking if it could be considered, and explaining why I felt I deserved it. She just reacted with a haha, and even sent a smiling face with heart eyes emoji. I don't know if it was sarcastic, but I was only asking a simple yes or no question. I didn't even mention a specific amount. Now I feel like I'm being treated unfairly. As much as I want to leave immediately, I still need the income. But this experience has really motivated me to start looking for another job as soon as possible. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Your boss is deflecting the conversation at hand. $13K, as you're already aware, is too low, especially as starting salary. Immediately drop your job as your priority in life and prioritize getting a job that knows your worth. I didn't see it that way, but that makes sense. And yeah, I know it's way too low, haha. I can't leave immediately since I'm still studying and supporting myself, but I'm already applying for other jobs. Just looking for a company that accepts graduating students. Start applying for backup options. If you get accepted or receive multiple offers, present them to your boss and see if they can match them. If not, you're ready to move on since you already have a standing offer. Make sure you have leverage. That was actually my initial plan, to secure an offer before asking for a raise, since I still enjoy the work and the setup I have here. But I just wanted to take a shot at asking tonight. I guess her response was a sign that I should walk away once I find a backup. It's kind of sad, because I really love my work here despite the low salary. Thank you for the advice. Bad idea. Even if your company matches the offer, do not accept it. Leave and move on. If you stay, they will eventually fire you. It's very unprofessional to tell your company that you have another offer and that you'll only stay if they match it. Your boss and HR are not kids. They are cunning. This isn't a game. I was a fresh graduate, and a company once offered me $15,000 to basically be their entire IT department. This was almost 8 years ago. Luckily, I had a friend with experience who advised me to look elsewhere. $13K is laughable considering the workload they've assigned you. Yeah, that's what others told me too, when I posted on a subreddit last time. Thanks for slapping me with reality again. I'm feeling motivated to start applying again tonight. Now for the update. Thank you all for the advice and for giving me a reality check. Here's an update on my situation. I waited 2 days for a proper response from my boss, but I guess her initial reaction was her answer. Regardless, I had already planned to resign and was just looking for another job to transition into. Just a day after posting this, I was able to quickly land an international client from an online job, who is paying me 4 times my monthly salary. The task seems easier than my usual work, at least in theory, but I still have some concerns since the tools are new to me and different from what I'm used to. However, I believe we grow the most from challenges that scare us. And stepping out of our comfort zone is where real learning happens. So thanks for motivating me to apply. As soon as I secured the deal, I immediately submitted my resignation. My boss later replied, apologizing for the late response and saying she was actually considering my request. She could have mentioned that when I first asked, instead of just reacting with a haha and an emoji though. She then asked if I could at least work reduced hours, since many of their clients had started with me. That honestly made me smile, because suddenly she saw my worth. Yet, when I initially asked for a raise, it seemed like I wasn't even worth a simple response, not even a short yes or no. Unfortunately, I didn't do what some of you suggested, reacting to her message with haha or replying with just a crying emoji. Instead, I told her that I had already made up my mind. I kept it polite because I didn't want to burn any bridges, as I still appreciate the experience I gained from the company. Thank you all for helping me realize my worth. I've learned my lesson, and I will never go through that again. Last time an employer did that to me, I found a new job in 2 weeks, and when I gave notice, he claimed I blindsided him. Happy for you, man. Oh no, how could this be? My employee blindsided me with a resignation just a few weeks after I ignored their request for a raise. Surely it's not about money, right? They just lack loyalty and resilience. This is definitely not my fault. Some bosses, really. So proud of what you did. That's the right approach. Keep it professional. Even though what your boss did was unprofessional, just reacting with a haha to your message. And now, only when you have a better offer does she suddenly see your worth. Good luck on your new job, OP. Thank you. Kill him with kindness, I guess. Congratulations. Are you still going to work on your notice period, bro? Surprisingly, they're not asking me to keep working. I just told them I would hand over the files and work I have, and I'm good to go. I also don't have a contract, so I don't think I'm obligated to. Second story. Update. Me, 39 female, with my 44 male depressed colleague, accused me of bullying him. Original post. I manage a team of 12 people, and last year, a 13th member was added when other managers refused to deal with him any longer. He has been diagnosed with depression and generalized anxiety disorder. He is morbidly obese and suffers from musculoskeletal problems related to obesity and diabetes. When they assigned him to me, it was because I had successfully helped other employees with mental health challenges. I was happy to take him on, believing I could support him. We made some progress, steadily increasing his level of work. While his performance never reached an acceptable standard, I made accommodations to relieve pressure, hoping this would lead to sustained long-term improvement. I also arranged for ergonomic equipment to help him be more physically comfortable due to his obesity. I genuinely felt we were making progress. Unfortunately, he committed a serious security breach by sending out personal information to someone who was not legally entitled to have it. As a result, I had to place him on formal disciplinary action. Since then, he has been on sick leave for over 3 months. He is now subject to attendance management procedures and has reached out to a local mental health group, claiming that I have bullied and harassed him. According to him, this has made it impossible for him to return to work. I have documented evidence proving that this is not true. When he was informed that he needed to be moved away from me for health and safety reasons, he became very distressed and insisted on staying under my supervision for mental health reasons. I also have signed documentation where he states that I am supportive and that he does not want the reasonable accommodations I have offered, such as shorter work days, fewer work days, and longer breaks. I now have a meeting with him and his support workers from the mental health group, and I have no idea how to handle it. How do I approach this? I can prove that he is lying, and I know he has a pattern of lying to get himself out of trouble. I am not worried about my bosses, as they are well aware that this is an utterly unfounded allegation. My main concern is that he is completely unsuited for the job, and because he refuses to acknowledge any responsibility for his mistakes, it is impossible to correct his performance. Now for the top advice before reading the crazy update. Let HR handle it. I have spoken with our internal HR, but they are terrified that any accusations of bullying someone with mental health problems could be problematic, since it's a hot topic at the moment. I have referred him for internal counseling, and he has repeatedly confirmed that he has taken up this service. My concern is that this meeting is not an internal one. It is with representatives from a mental health advocacy group. I don't know how to respectfully state that he is lying without sounding like a bully. To be clear, his lies aren't malicious, and I don't believe this one is either. He says things to solve an immediate problem. In this case, he needs to justify his extended sick leave, and admitting it is due to his own actions is too overwhelming. So instead, I am being bullied shifts the responsibility away from him. The reality is that he has control over his situation, but he is so used to portraying himself as a victim that he refuses to acknowledge the truth. Judging from your explanation, it sounds like you have an understanding and empathetic attitude toward this person and the situation. That attitude, along with the documentation you have regarding the accommodations you've offered, should go a long way in your defense. What exactly is he accusing you of? I'm not a professional in this area, but I have extensive experience working with people with mental health challenges in social work/education settings. He believes that by pointing out his security breach and substandard level of work, I have bullied him. He doesn't deny that he made the mistakes. His claim is that expecting him to improve is a form of bullying and harassment. I have made significant allowances for him. Other employees are expected to handle approximately 16 cases per day, accurately. I told him I would be happy with just 2 cases per day if he did them correctly. Unfortunately, he is unable to complete even 2 cases without mistakes. Despite allowing him to work at a much slower pace, he believes that he should be given the same margin of error as someone handling 16 cases. Because I expect him to complete 2 cases with 0 errors, while others handling 16 cases have some allowance for minor mistakes, he feels that he is being unfairly targeted. Now for the update. The meeting went ahead as planned, and thanks to the wonderful advice and tips from those who kindly responded, I was calm and felt prepared. Boy, was I wrong. My colleague and his support worker were both present, and the meeting started off well. I asked how he was doing, what steps he was taking to prepare for his return to work, etc., and nothing unexpected came up. As arranged, I brought up the allegations of bullying and asked for specific examples to help me understand what was happening. After worrying myself sick about this, his answer was actually quite disappointing. He provided no examples, only vague explanations about how his anxiety made him overreact to other people's conversations, making him feel like he was being picked on. I advised him, with my boss backing me up, that there was literally nothing I could do about that. I patiently explained that I could not ban people from talking, and I was not going to sit in silence just to ensure he never heard anything he didn't like. My boss also emphasized that his poor performance needed to be addressed, as that was part of my job, and that doing so in no way constituted harassment. His support worker agreed, and we had a brief discussion about how I could communicate with him more effectively. To be honest, nothing they suggested was particularly helpful, but I agreed to be mindful of his condition moving forward. Then things got weird. I asked if there was anything I could do to help him transition back into work. This usually involves a phased return, switching to part-time hours, etc., but not this time. As I was talking, he started taking paperwork out of a folder, and I should have realized something was up when his support worker sighed deeply and slumped down in his chair. My colleague requested that he be allowed to bring an emotional support animal to work with him, namely, a support cat. We're in the UK, and this is not the norm, so I was a bit surprised. He hadn't settled on a breed yet, but was torn between an Abyssinian or a Siamese. I thought that pointing out some obvious difficulties with this idea might make him realize how inappropriate it was. For example, I reminded him that we already have a guide dog in the building for a partially sighted colleague. His name is Rufus, and he is by far the most popular being in the office, the dog, not the human. I explained that introducing a cat might cause issues. He responded by telling me that it was illegal to discriminate by favoring one disability over another, and that if a blind person could have a guide dog, then a depressed person should be allowed to have a cat. I moved on from this clearly idiotic point and asked how a cat would react to being placed in a pet carrier twice a day to travel to and from work. He confidently replied that he would train the cat. At this point, my boss became very agitated and demanded, "How the heck do you train a cat?" Not to be deterred, my colleague stated that in the worst-case scenario, he would leave the cat at work overnight and only take it home on weekends. I asked how he intended to handle cleaning the litter box, considering his serious weight issues made bending down difficult. He proudly presented me with a spreadsheet he had created, complete with a team rotation for feeding the cat and cleaning up after it. He had even costed out the expenses for food, insurance, and the actual cost of the cat. The spreadsheet included an expected donation from each team member based on how he perceived their financial circumstances. I was expected to contribute the most since I am single, earn more, and have no dependent children. The spreadsheet was quite impressive, color-coded and everything. I politely said no. He then insisted that the company should pay for the cat, arguing that it would be a legitimate business expense to accommodate his disability. At this point, I realized my boss was still muttering, "How the heck do you train a cat?" while the support worker was shaking his head and quietly saying, "I told you not to do this." So, I made a unilateral decision on behalf of the company and firmly stated that we would not be buying any cats, nor would we be cleaning up after any cats, because we would not be permitting any cats on the premises. He was not happy. He complained that I was making it impossible for him to return to work. My boss, breaking free from his cat training tangent, decided that we had gone as far as we could for the time being and ended the meeting. As we were leaving, he made a point of telling the support worker there will be no bloody cats. The support worker nodded and agreed that this was entirely fair. I didn't hear anything for a week or so, then received another 4-week sick note from him. Per company procedure, I called to check in on how he was doing. He was still very upset about my discriminatory anti-cat stance and informed me that he would be taking it further. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from what initially appeared to be a local solicitor's office. It informed me that I was being sued for breaking disability discrimination laws. However, upon closer examination, the letterhead had been altered to include his home phone number and personal mobile. The address was also incorrect. It wasn't the solicitor's office at all. I'm not sure whose address he used, but it certainly wasn't legitimate. I handed it to my boss, who had also received a letter, and both were forwarded to our legal department. I was advised to have no further contact with him. Shortly afterward, the legal team confirmed that his contract had been terminated with immediate effect. I am honestly stunned at how this all played out. I half expected him to be let go due to excessive absences and his unwillingness to improve his performance, but I never imagined it would end like this. It's both hilarious and sad. Thank you so much to everyone who helped me prepare for the meeting. Your advice and support meant the world to me. I love how far removed from reality this guy is. I'll bring a cat as a support animal. How are you going to clean up after it? Or feed it? You guys are going to do it. Yeah, no. And buy the cat as a business expense. And a purebred cat, no less. Do you know how much those specific breeds of cats can cost? At least $2,500, depending on the breeder and the cat's lineage. Breeding cats is no joke, and that's just the starting figure. I love how this guy specifically wanted a purebred cat. Not just any cat, but an Abyssinian or a Siamese. This guy is Delulu. Also, those breeds are noisy AF. Let's just say they make their presence known loudly. Sounds perfect for a quiet office setting. Side note, I'm a vet tech, which is why I know about cat prices. One of my cats is a ragdoll from a breeder. She flunked out and wasn't up to snuff for the breeder to use in their line, but they didn't realize that until she was almost a year old. They didn't want to just sell or give her to just anyone. So I ended up with her free of charge, but I saw the pricing for what she would have sold for. Yikes. I can't stop laughing at the boss who got so caught up on a training a cat tangent and just zoned out. He's now forging letters from lawyers. This is serious misconduct. We need to let him go. Okay, whatever. But how the hell do you train a cat?
Update. Am I the a-hole for banning my husband's best friend from our house? Original story. My husband and I have been together for 10 years, including 6 years married, and have a beautiful 1-year-old. He has a best friend from his college years. They're very close. And since they both are only child, formed brotherly bond. His friend and I never get along well. At first, he was jealous that my husband was in a relationship and seemed disgustingly in love with me, in his own words. As years passed, he became more civil towards me. But I'm too socially shy and introvert, so we never become friends or anything. I admit I don't like to hang out with him and avoid him. But he come often to my house, and every time I cook or bake something special, and it's the only way we can get along. I did this because I know how close my husband and him are. Recently, my husband got a new cell phone and handed it to me because he always forgets his passwords. So I was downloading his chat's backups when I saw a recent message from his friend telling him that ex-girl was really disappointed he didn't show up again. I was intrigued, so I opened the chat and oh man, the whole chat was filled with messages from his friend encouraging him to meet with this girl. My husband brushed him off all the time, but he kept insisting. At some point, his friend told him this girl was way younger than me, and her body was hotter, and that my husband had to admit that my body have changed a lot after my pregnancy. He even mentioned that this girl's genital will be tighter. Disgusting. I've never felt so dragged. His friend messages him multiple times, saying he was drinking with his girlfriend and this girl who was willing, and called him a coward when he refused. I confronted my husband, and he said that in fact his friend have been being more of a jerk than usual, but he never actually considered cheating on me with this girl or anybody else for the matter. I trust him, but I don't trust his friend. I don't want to be that type of wife and tell him who he can't be friends with, but I made it very clear I didn't want his friend to put a foot in my house again, or be near my daughter that recently started calling him uncle. My husband agrees, but thinks banning him from the house is too much. Said he would have a serious talk with him about his disgusting behavior, but the banning was too much and this is his house too, so should have a say. That led us to a fight because I'm adamant they could stay friends but not in my house. My husband thinks I'm the a-hole for trying to rule who can and who can't come to our house. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Your husband should have spoken to him when he started the conversation around him leaving you for someone younger. Allowing it to continue has just sent the message that he is not rejecting it completely. Also insisting on remaining friends with someone who clearly wants to ruin his relationship. The friend is disgusting and should not be allowed in your home. This isn't a friend. A friend won't actively and so blatantly try to ruin a friend's marriage. This guy wants to throw a hand grenade at Opie's relationship and watch it burn. The sad thing is that Opie's husband still doesn't see that this isn't a friend. What a sad situation. Not the a-hole. But Opie, if you're reading this, please ask your husband to take a closer look at whom he brings around himself and his family, in the guise of calling themselves a friend. Opie, your husband shouldn't be comfortable having a person in his house who is actively trying to destroy his marital home. He must be banned from your home for talking disgustingly about you and trying to separate you and your husband. You feed him and respect him as special guest, and he turned out to be evil and wanted to destroy your household. No, he is not allowed again. He could find another place for his dirty plans. Not the a-hole. In fact, I think you're still underreacting here. Why does your husband even want to be friends with this person? He is disrespecting your marriage and you as his friend's wife. Actively trying to sabotage your marriage while smiling in your face. This is really disgusting behavior, and being banned from your house and child should be the first step. I said the same thing. Why is the husband even still friends with this guy? He should have been cut off the first time he tried to get him to cheat on his freaking wife and mother of his child. Absolutely disgusting. I feel like Opie is underreacting to the situation. This guy should be out of husband's life for good. And now for the update. Thank you for all your responses. Some people asked me for an update. Yesterday, after breakfast, I sat with my husband to have a talk. I told him he was right. Banning his friend was wrong. They will meet anywhere else where he can actively drag me down and encourage him to cheat. Plus, I don't want my daughter to be near a grown man that was constantly thinking about how tight a young girl's V may be. I didn't mention it in my post, but this girl is in her early 20s while we're all in our mid-30s. My husband was mad at me for insinuating that his friend was a perv, and was even more mad because now I was saying he should cut his friendship out. I told him I feel disappointed that he let someone talk of me and my body that way. I was disappointed that someone tried to sabotage our marriage, and I let him get away with it. If the family we had built was less important than his brotherhood, he should go ahead and tell me already so I won't be losing my time. He said he was right, but I couldn't possibly understand him because I came from a large family. I pointed out that he has a family now. This family must come first than any friendship, brotherhood, or whatever. He agreed. Well, later that day, his friend came over to pick up something. They ended up hanging in our front yard for 2 hours, and my husband even took our daughter to say hi to uncle and play. I was seeing red. I waited until the friend left, packed mine and my girl's stuff, and left to my parents. I messaged him. He had 2 options: to man up and stick to his family or see us in court. I wasn't about to take any disrespect from nobody. Not him, not his friend. I also sent him the link of my previous post so he could see some extra perspective. He messaged me telling me how sorry he was. He was willing to do anything to not lose us. He said he was sorry for being so weak and not protecting me, our intimacy, and our marriage. Sent me some screenshots where he tells his friend to stop trying to introduce him to women and getting him to cheat. He asked for a dinner to discuss some boundaries they need to set in their friendship and the respect he should have for his marriage. My husband asked me to come along to this dinner so I can see myself that it's true he's setting boundaries and he will put distance between them too. I also agreed to do some kind of counseling to deal with his own trauma of losing people. I said that I support him heartily, but I'm staying with my parents until dinner with his friend is over and I see some kind of improvement. That is it. Again, thanks. He wants you to come to dinner with a problem to discuss boundaries? No, he knows what the boundaries are. He can discuss them with his friend, and then he can let you know what the friend and he decide. Having dinner together to discuss boundaries is some weird triad third wheel crap. His friend isn't part of your marriage. These 2 things bother me. First, why is the dinner needed? Your husband just needed to call him and be blunt. Second, you had to leave in order for your husband to step up. A decent man would have automatically stepped up the first time his friend disrespected his wife in marriage. I'm glad your husband is agreeing to therapy because he needs it. Let him see this post also, and good luck. The fact that he still wants his a-hole friend in his life and thinks that setting some boundaries where you go back to not hearing what the friend is saying to him makes me think it's smart to stay at your parents' house. I wish I could reply to everybody. I made it clear to my husband that either he cuts his friend out or I'm leaving forever. If this dinner doesn't end on my husband cutting his friendship, I'm not going back home. I'm not taking some fake apologies. I'm standing on my ground. I wouldn't go to that dinner. Dollars to donuts, the friend is already going to frame you as overbearing and try to ruin their friendship. And even though your husband is the one to invite you, my guess is that the friend will try to get in his head that you forced him to do it. It makes it easier for the friend to do this if you're at the dinner. Also, if you're going to rebuild your relationship with your husband, you have to rebuild your trust. Trusting him to do the right thing without you being there is the important part. He needs to do this on his own. I agree with this. The friend will absolutely see it as OP forcing the husband to do it. I also agree. Dinner? He needs to dump his disgusting, misogynistic friend who objectifies women and glorifies cheating. If the situations were reversed, the husband would not be okay with a friend who encouraged Opie to cheat on her husband with a well-endowed man. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for revealing our net worth when my wife constantly says we are broke and making me look bad with money? I, 31 male, have been with my wife, 30 female, for 10 years now, and she always has had this habit of making me look bad with our finances. Whenever anything regarding spending money comes up, she will always say how broke we are, and she doesn't have the money to do this or buy that. The thing is, we are doing well financially. We have decent jobs, and combined our salary is roughly $125,000 a year. As of today, our net worth is more than $1 million, but less than 2. I had saved/invested a lot before getting married, so I gave us a good head start. I control the finances/take the lead, but we both agreed to living a very modest life. We both have our cars from college, for example, Honda and Toyota. She knows everything about our finances, because at least once a month I go over it with her every time I deposit money in our investment accounts or our kids' college funds. For banking, we have an emergency fund and I budget everything else to go straight into investments. We basically stay right at $10,000 in our bank savings account and $500 in our checking account after bills. Most of the time there's more than $500 in our checkings, but once I pay our credit card each month, I then move anything extra. We always use the credit card, so it's not like we only have $500 to spend. Our credit card limit is $25,000. A few months ago, we had dinner with our friends and they talked about buying a new car. My wife said something like, I wish I could get a new car, but I'm always broke after paying the bills. We still have our college cars. Note, wife does not want a new car. She will go on talk about that if she had money, what she would want to buy, and it always makes me feel ashamed. This I'm broke story has been happening for years. When we were driving home, I asked her about. She understood we have the money, but it's how she feels because her bank account is always low. I said I can increase our budget or keep more money in our bank if she wants. Since we are doing well, I'm okay with spending more. She said no, and again was happy with our finances. I explained that when she says we are broke, it makes me look bad and I feel ashamed. It's as though I can't provide for the family and or I'm bad with money. She doesn't see it that way. The same conversation has come up numerous times about us being broke. Recently, I reminded her numerous times it makes me feel and look bad in front of friends and family. I told her if she keeps saying stuff like that, I will reveal that we are doing well with money. I gave her a few reminders I'd eventually do this, but she kept going with the I'm broke story. At a dinner with her sister and parents, the same I'm broke story came up. I piped in and said, it's weird to hear millionaires say they're broke. My wife said, haha, I'm not though. And I quickly say, we are millionaires and you know that. We go over our finances every month. Well, the I'm broke story stopped after that and the night went on as usual. A little later, the same thing happens with her friends and I use the same line. Now my wife is mad at me for using that line and revealing roughly how much money we have. She said it seems like I'm gloating. I say it's better than making me look like I'm running us into the ground financially. So am I the a-hole for revealing our net worth when my wife says we are broke? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She was dismissive of your feelings and was constantly lying to the people around her. It's a classic case of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. This, if she doesn't want it continually mentioned, she needs to stop crying poverty. It's pretty simple. Yes, I grew up fairly poor since my mom was a single mom raising 3 kids. Seriously, we were poor. We were homeless for a few times, and I thought it was a summer where we only ate ramen, chicken salad, and water. But apparently it was a few years and we lived with my grandparents for a while. But they were super toxic, especially to my mom, so we got out of there. She now has a boyfriend. Pretty nice guy, and his daughters are extremely horrible. They always complain about being broke when one has the ability to live nicely but go way above her means, and the other constantly has thousands in her bank account, but is too stingy to spend it. Seriously, she will worm her way into getting you to pay, and if you don't, she won't go. It's one of my pet peeves when people complain avidly about being broke when they aren't, because I've been there and it isn't fun. Not today, Hall. It's very weird that your wife feels the need to constantly downplay and pretend that she's poor. What about all the people who are actually struggling? Very weird, and a horrible thing for your wife to do. It's good that you called her out on it. Indeed, you asked her to stop, but apparently she didn't care. And then she's angry that you tell everyone that you're not broke. Info: why does she downplay your combined wealth? Is she worried her family will ask for financial assistance? Is the crack about her college car because she's sick of using an old car but doesn't think you'll agree to buying a new one? And why do you feel like it's specifically calling you out? Is she saying you're not earning enough or that you're spending all the money? I feel like there's something going on you haven't told us. It's possible that she's just frustrated with the results of their budgeting. I'm in a similar scenario. I've got a job with a decent salary. Not anywhere near OP's, but I don't have to worry about starving anytime soon. Right now, I'm taking the opportunity to save as much as possible for the future. And it sucks to have limited spending money, even when I, hopefully, will be much better off when I retire, thanks to aggressive savings early on. But because it's my choice, I don't complain about not having spending money because I'm choosing to save it. And that, I think, is where OP's wife is missing a step. It's like being grumpy because you're on a diet. It might be reasonable to be grumpy because you're hungry, but it's a-hole behavior to take it out on people around you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for making my wife pay for her own speeding ticket? My wife is a stay-at-home mom to our 2 kids, 4 and 7. She is great to me and does an amazing job with them. Not so much with driving. She constantly speeds. With me, with our children, and obviously when she's driving alone. She's been very lucky not to get into any accidents and has only gotten a couple of warnings over the years. Well, that luck finally ran out, and she got a speeding ticket yesterday. She tried to BS me that it was so stupid, I was only going like 5 over. I saw the ticket, and she was doing 82 in a 65. Unacceptable. I mean, people mess up, but I've talked to her numerous times about her driving, and she's changed nothing. I did raise my voice, but I made it clear that there's been enough of this nonsense. It isn't hard not to speed. We are 100% joint on finances. All of my paychecks go into a shared account, and we pay bills out of that. We each get $300 a month in personal spending money. So I told her that she would have to pay the ticket out of her own fun money. She got angry and said that it should be treated as a normal expense out of our account. To be clear, I'm not a penny pincher or scorekeeper. We both screw up and bail each other out all the time. But those are genuine accidents. Speeding is intentional and safe and 100% preventable. I said that we could pay for her to take defensive driving to get the ticket dismissed. She doesn't want to do that. She just wants the ticket to go away, and I'm being unfair for making a big deal out of this. I said that if we really wanted to be fair, she would have to pay for defensive driving or pay the ticket herself, plus the increase in our insurance for as long as the ticket is on her record. What I've offered is more than fair. She's giving me the silent treatment now. Am I the a-hole? Well, she must have had fun driving that fast, right? Then she can use her fun money. Speeding is a choice, and she might hurt someone one day. If her fun money wallet has to hurt for a little while in order to teach her a lesson, then so be it. Not the a-hole. Yeah, both of the options you're giving her are reasonable. The only possible reason she should get out of paying money is if she somehow convinces the judge to give her community service instead. And even then, only if you drive her so she doesn't get more tickets on the way. Not the a-hole. You pay bills out of your joint account, not tickets. She needs to learn that actions have consequences. She got angry and said that it should be treated as a normal expense out of our account. Not the a-hole. Yeah, this is some grade A BS right here, OP. You play, you pay. We all know that. Why would it be joint when it wasn't a joint decision to speed?
Update. Am I the a-hole for not letting my friends use my backyard for their wedding because they do not want me to bring a +1? Original post. Here is the situation. Last summer, I bought my grandparents' house. This house was the hangout spot for my friends and me throughout our childhood. This includes my friend Dave. The house has a sizable amount of land, which includes a lake and a gazebo. I was supposed to buy the house with my now ex-girlfriend, Leslie. But during the process of getting approved, I found out she had massive amounts of credit card and personal debt that she had hidden from me throughout our 4 years together. As a result, I decided to break up with her. That was about 6 months ago. I met Leslie because Dave's long-term girlfriend Kim is Leslie's cousin. Dave and Kim are engaged and set to get married in April. When I was buying the house, they asked if they could have the ceremony at the gazebo, and I agreed. In December, I started dating again. Leslie has not taken this well at all. She thinks we are going to get back together and has tried multiple times to make that happen. I have told her in no uncertain terms that isn't happening. Dave and Kim have now asked me not to bring a +1 to the wedding for Leslie's sake. I told them that this request is ridiculous. This wedding is happening at my house, on my land, and I am not allowed to bring a date because of a crazy ex. If that's the case, then they need to find a new venue for the wedding. They are mad about this, given the short time frame before the wedding. So we are at an impasse. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I've seen a few things brought up in the comments multiple times, so I'll quickly address them here. 1. Liability issues. I am fully aware of the liability risks, which is why I purchased, and they reimbursed me for, a special event insurance policy that provides 100% coverage for any damages, claims, injuries, etc., up to $2 million. This was one of the first things we did after I agreed to host the event at my home. 2. Guest size and facilities. The wedding will have a maximum of 75 guests, plus 5 catering staff and 5 security staff. Security is necessary because it's an open area that anyone walking past can access. The house has hosted events twice this size, and logistically, it has been fine. The property has 2 cottages, one with 1 bathroom and the other with 2 bathrooms. The only portion of my house that will remain unlocked during the wedding is the finished basement, which has 2 additional bathrooms. 3. The +1 situation. Every single guest who is not in an established relationship received an invitation with a +1, including both me and Leslie. This conversation only came up after I sent in my RSVP and indicated that I would be bringing a +1. Now, they are saying they don't want me to bring a date because Leslie blew up about it, and they are afraid of a scene at the wedding. 4. Leslie has also indicated she intends to bring a +1. I have no idea if she actually will, but she put it down on her RSVP. Now for the top comments before reading the update. They want to tell you who you can have at your own home and think it is fine. They're nuts. If they want to dictate guest rules, they should pay for a venue. He is being generous, and they're being entitled. Yeah, he is offering them a free wedding venue, and they're trying to control his personal life in return? That's not how favors work. Pull an Uno reverse. Tell them Leslie isn't allowed on your property and watch their heads explode. The petty part of me did absolutely consider saying, well, Leslie cannot come to my house or on my land, so it shouldn't be a problem. My younger self would have said, F that, it's my property, and I'll bring a date. Or you can hold your wedding at the local VFW for all I care. My older, more thoughtful self says, Dave, you're my friend, and I don't want to ruin you and your fiancé's day. Since you want Leslie at the wedding, I won't bring a date out of respect for you. If she brings someone, fine. Yes, it's crappy for Dave and Kim to make that demand, but it's also crappy to pull the rug out from under them this late in the game. Couples planning a wedding can get a little crazy, dealing with thousands of details and having to navigate/prevent potential drama between family members and friends. It's super stressful. I definitely sympathize with how you're feeling, but if it were me, I'd swallow my pride and just let them have their day, especially if Dave's friendship is important to you. Interesting. A younger version of me would have let them do whatever they wanted and given in to every demand. But that is no longer my view on the matter. Dave's friendship does matter to me, but he is effectively giving me the middle finger as I see it. Over the last 6 months, I have put up with all types of nonsense due to Leslie. While most people don't know all the details of what I've endured, Dave does. As a result, I have taken all kinds of nonsense from virtually everyone on the wedding guest list. People begging or pleading with me to take Leslie back or some combination of both. I simply want to have someone there so I don't have to deal with the constant nonsense, lies, manipulations, etc. that have defined my interactions with these people. Dave doesn't care about that. So, it leaves me wondering, does he actually care about me? If the last 6 months had not been what they were, I might feel differently. But I have bent over backward to avoid making things difficult for Leslie. I simply cannot give in anymore. I am done. Now for the update. So, I met with Dave this morning. We talked for almost 2 hours about everything. I laid it out that I thought he was, at best, a crappy friend. I went through our long history of various incidents over the years that have made me question our friendship. That was the bulk of our conversation. Then we turned to the breakup with Leslie and the crap show of the last 6 months. Despite Leslie's craziness, I have bent over backward to try and accommodate her feelings. She has shown up at my house in the middle of the night, yet I did not go for a restraining order. When I go out, I avoid places I know she and her family frequent. She has implied to her family and mutual friends at various times that I cheated and/or that I took advantage of her financially, neither of which is true at all. I have held my tongue to avoid embarrassing her in front of her friends and family. Dave knows all of this, yet, once again, he is demanding that I put Leslie's feelings before my own. I said, you and everyone else need to stop coddling her like she's a freaking child. Dave admitted that Leslie has been crazy and ridiculous since the breakup, but he said she feels she didn't get closure after the relationship. She wants to have an evening where she can talk to you to get that closure. He also told me that Leslie has been very vigilant about paying off her debt and has paid off almost $10,000 of her credit card debt. She wants to talk to me about her progress, to see if that might cause me to change my mind. It will not. I asked him, "So, do you expect me to go to the wedding and talk to her? Because I have her blocked everywhere, and date or not, I do not plan to say a single mumbling word to her." He said, "I fully expect she would lose it if y'all don't talk at the wedding." I told him, if that's the case, then for the good of my property, I can't have Leslie come. If she is so unstable that I need to be coerced into a conversation with her, then she is too unsafe to be a guest in any capacity at my home. So, I told him, based on what he just told me, Leslie cannot come to my house or onto my land. I am still willing to host the wedding, but I cannot trust that Leslie won't do something based on what he is saying. Dave lost it at this point. He yelled, "F you and your I don't need it." So I said, "Then the wedding is off." He left. So that's the state of things. To add, the day of the wedding is not the time to get closure, and at the wedding is not the place to get closure. Your friends are okay with her hijacking their ceremony so she can sleep better at night? Yeah, that would be a big not happening, any of it, from me. It sounds like they're prioritizing Leslie's feelings over your rights as the homeowner. Sounds like they're prioritizing her feelings over having a calm wedding and reception. They expect it to stay calm because they expect OP to fall in line with whatever get back together plan Leslie is hatching. It's nice for her that she's paying off her debt, but she's still a liar and obviously manipulative. I'd refund Dave for what he spent on the event insurance, then host my own party on that date at my home, a people who don't want to hang out with Leslie party. I bet there'd be a massive turnout. Well, I think one of your key takeaways from this is that you need to start living your life. Stop avoiding places you normally go to. Clarify to people why you broke up, that it wasn't because you cheated, and put together any evidence of her crazy behavior so you can get a restraining order if needed. You also need to tell people why the wedding isn't happening at your place because you know they're going to make you out to be the bad guy. This times 100. OP, there's no need for you to keep doing what you're doing. The whole group, including parents, needs all the details about what happened and what is still happening. If she shows up at your house again, call the police and have her trespassed. Too bad about Dave. He sounds like a big a-hole. You are better off without him in your life. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to switch seats on a plane even though a mom started crying? So, I-27 male was on a long-haul flight, about 10 hours, and I had booked a window seat months in advance. I get motion sickness, and having a window helps a lot. Plus, I was planning to sleep for most of the flight. When I got to my seat, a woman, maybe mid-30s, was sitting there with her baby on her lap. I politely told her that she was in my seat, and she, immediately, looked uncomfortable. She said she thought it would be okay since she wanted to sit with her husband, who was in the middle seat next to her. I asked where her original seat was. It turned out she was supposed to be in the middle seat of the row behind us. She asked if I could just take her seat so she could sit with her husband and baby. I glanced back and saw that her seat was squeezed between two big guys, and I already knew that wasn't going to work for me. I apologized and told her that I really preferred to keep my assigned seat. She kept insisting, saying, "It's just a seat," and "I'm a mother traveling with a baby." The husband wasn't really saying anything, just giving me a guilty look. A flight attendant came over because she was getting upset, and when I explained the situation, the attendant told her she had to sit in her assigned seat if I wasn't willing to switch. Then she started crying. Not full-on sobbing, but she looked really frustrated and kept shaking her head like I was some kind of monster. I felt bad, but at the same time, I had paid for this seat and specifically booked it early. The guy next to me whispered, "Good for you, man. People always try to pull this." After takeoff, I put my headphones in and tried to sleep, but I could feel the people behind me glaring. When we landed, the husband mumbled, "Must be nice to have no empathy," as I grabbed my bag. Am I the a-hole for not giving up my seat? Now for the top comments. I don't even need to read your post. Whenever anyone wants to keep their assigned seat, they are not the a-hole. I've never understood this whole concept. If I can't find the seat I need on a flight, I don't buy it and check other flights. Pretty straightforward. Exactly. The only a-holes are the ones who expect someone to switch with them. You're not the a-hole for asking, but you are for sulking when rejected. Not the a-hole. I'm a frequent flyer. Fly round trip like 6 times a year. And when that person said, people always try to pull this, he was not lying. Someone else's poor planning is not your responsibility. On top of that, why didn't the husband man up and take the kid for part of the flight? Yeah, not gonna lie. I can't help but wonder if it wasn't that the husband bought the plane tickets cheaper this way and said, "Don't worry, honey. No one's gonna tell a mom with a baby they won't switch seats." Dad here that just bought plane tickets. Damn right. I paid more to select the seats for my family, so we weren't spread around the plane in middle seats. Yeah, it sucks that the advertised price doesn't come with seat selection and picking a seat is 20% more or whatever, but you have to suck it up and pick the upgrade. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to be a prisoner to motherhood after my divorce? I, 32 female, recently separated from my ex-husband, 33 male, after years of feeling like I was disappearing. I was a wife, I was a mom, but me? I didn't exist anymore. My entire life revolved around my marriage and our 3 kids, 13, 5, and almost 2. I love my children more than anything, and I have them the majority of the time. When they're with me, I give them everything. Homework, bedtime stories, family outings. And for the first time in years, I actually feel present, instead of trapped in a dark hole of exhaustion and self-hate. But on the rare days or weeks they're with their dad, I finally have a moment to breathe. I've been using that time to do things I never got to do when I was married. Hiking in the mountains, camping under the stars, going to concerts, making friends, playing my games, and watching my movies. I'm figuring out who I am outside of just mom. And now my ex is losing his mind over it. He says I'm abandoning our kids and being selfish. He's running around telling mutual friends and family that I care more about having an adventure than being a mother. Apparently, because I go on overnight camping trips, I'm irresponsible. What does he expect me to do? Sit in an empty house, staring at the walls, waiting for my kids to come back? For context, during our marriage, he had plenty of hobbies, late-night gaming, concerts, nights out with friends, and even a planned Vegas trip with his coworkers. He never once questioned whether he was abandoning his family. But now that I'm doing something for myself, suddenly I'm the villain? I feel like I'm being a good mom by taking care of my mental health and showing my kids that life doesn't end when things get hard. But his words are starting to get to me. So, am I the a-hole for finally choosing me for once? Editing to answer some questions. 1. Was my ex abusive? Yes. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I couldn't go to the store without him. He had to go to the gym with me to keep an eye on me, and he kept my credit cards in his wallet for his use only. If I needed anything, clothes, shampoo, undergarments, he told me I was wasting his money. Any money I did make from side jobs was his money. 2. Did he ever want to do things together? No. If I asked to go do anything, he would make the entire day miserable. Either by tearing me down until I wanted to disappear, or by messing with the kids so they would be miserable, which in turn made me miserable. 3. How did I finally leave? By the time I was able to leave him, I was wishing a car would hit me so I wouldn't have to deal with it anymore, because I thought there was no way out. My cousin came and picked me and my kids up and took us to Tennessee so I could reset. When I didn't feel like dying anymore, we took a road trip back home, which helped clear my head even more. By the time we got back, I was able to move out, even with him screaming at me. Why does he even know what you do when the kids aren't there? It's none of his business. His sisters and our daughters stalk my Instagram, and I can't figure out which follower it is. I blocked their main accounts. Change your settings to private then. Also, take this to a family judge and tell them you wish to give up majority custody for 50-50 time. You're not a bad mom for wanting some you time. He's only whining because now he actually has to be responsible and take care of his kids. You deserve time to hang out with friends and pursue your hobbies when you're not mothering. Your kids will see the difference too. They can tell when mom isn't happy. It is private, and I wouldn't trust him to have them more than he already does. He doesn't even pay attention to school holidays. He just asked me if the kids have school today. What does he do when you have the kids? Lives the life of a hermit monk? He still goes out and does everything he did when we were together. Even when he has the kids, his mom watches them so he can continue to do the things he was already doing. Tell everyone that piece of info and ask if they still think you are a bad parent. He is just jealous you have a life now. He probably wonders why you are divorced, lol. Oh, he does, and also blames me for everything. Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to spend another dime on stepkids and grands? Original post. I, 38 female, and my husband, 50 male, have been married for 10 years and have a 1-year-old daughter together. He has a son, 30 male, and a daughter, 28 female, from a previous marriage. Since my husband and I have been together, I have always bought his children birthday presents, Christmas presents, and gifts/cards for every holiday. They have always made snide comments about me being too festive, but my love language is gift-giving. Well, they both have children now. His son has 3 children under the age of 5, and his daughter has twin 2-year-old daughters. This past Christmas, his daughter and her husband hosted our family Christmas party. During the gift exchange, each household exchanged the gifts they bought for the other households. For context, his children have never bought Christmas presents for me, which I am fine with. I have always been the one to purchase gifts for my stepchildren and step-grandchildren, while my husband gives his adult kids gift cards. So, while the gifts were being passed out, it quickly became apparent that this year, they not only didn't buy anything for me, but also didn't get anything for my 1-year-old daughter, their half-sister. So everyone at the party had gifts to open. My husband, my stepson and his wife, their 3 sons, my stepdaughter, her husband, and their twin daughters. They had all bought gifts for each other, and I had bought gifts for all of them, yet not one person bought anything for their baby sister. I gathered my things and my daughter, and we left. Afterwards, I told my husband that I had never been made to feel like part of the family, and that's one thing. But for them to exclude their own half-sister who is their blood is something completely different. I told him I will never spend a dime on his family because they are not mine. Also, they decided to do a family photo shoot and didn't include my daughter. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. No more gifts. You tried, but you're done with them. After 10 years, you'd think they'd get a clue. Just curious. Were you the reason your husband broke up with his ex-wife? If so, that may be why they are so hostile. And honestly, I'd write them both a letter and explain that you have been handling gifts for your husband's family for 10 years, but will no longer be doing so after the way they treated their half-sister during the holidays. Any gift requests, etc., should be directed to your husband. And your husband is an ass for letting them get away with this BS for 10 years. Let him know that he's on his own from now on, for birthdays and holidays. You're done with them. No, he and their mother divorced when his son was 7 and daughter was 5. He and I started dating when they were 16 and 18. Not the a-hole. That even makes their behavior more appalling. Your husband never said anything to you never getting gifts from them? What was your husband's reaction to your child getting no gifts? What was his reaction to what you told him? Your husband is as much a problem, it seems. No, my husband never commented on them never getting anything for me. But he did say he was upset with how they treated the baby. However, he hasn't brought it up to his adult children. Yes, he is part of the problem. He has never set boundaries with his children, nor advocated for equal respect. No, honey, your husband is the whole problem. Is this how you want to spend the rest of your life? You and your daughter being treated like garbage by his adult children and grandchildren? Because it's coming, I guarantee it. You need to have a serious conversation with your clueless idiot husband. Not the a-hole for stopping gifts. They obviously have some feelings about you, but it's cruel to take it out on an innocent baby. But I also feel there is a lot of context behind this that might explain their indifference to you and your daughter. Yes, I have often done self-evaluation to try to understand what I may have said or done to cause their feelings toward me. I have spoken with my husband at length to see if he could shed some light. As far as I can tell, I am the one who stayed. Apparently, other women he dated would try to give ultimatums, and I just overlooked their behavior. I myself came from a broken home and know that it can have a negative effect on many children, but I would never be so disrespectful to my step-parents or siblings from second marriages. Now for the first update. Well, I had a long talk with my husband again after reading all the responses I got. His opinion is that his children have no issue with our age difference. However, they just don't consider me part of their family, and he doesn't think that they look at our daughter as their sister, which I will completely respect, because they are entitled to their own opinions as well as their own feelings. With me respecting their feelings comes the fact that they are no longer part of my family. I will act accordingly as just their father's wife. As for my daughter, she is just that, my daughter. Valentine's Day has come and gone, and I did not get a thing for his children or grandchildren. I splurged on my daughter, and it felt really great. I reminded him a week before Valentine's Day that it was coming up, and that his grandkids would probably be expecting something. He neither bought anything for his children nor his grandchildren, nor our daughter, and he didn't buy anything for me as well. He made a comment about feeling some type of way about the separation between me and his family, almost as though it was my own decision, and I quickly reminded him that I am just respecting the wishes of his family and that they belong to him and they are nothing to me. In short, this marriage most likely will not last for multiple reasons, not just the issues in this post. Also, I failed to leave out a key detail. He was married to another woman between his children's mother and me. According to him, that woman treated his children very, very poorly. I don't know her, so I can't speak about her. I only know what he told me, and that story is completely one-sided. He also thinks that may be the reason why his children treat me the way they do, due to past traumas from his second wife. Maybe his second wife was a lovely individual that was treated like crap from him and his children and grandchildren. Have you considered that? Not the a-hole. There isn't a world where the father didn't bring a piece of crap home and not care how it affected his family. Not a freaking chance anything else happened. This guy's a douchebag, and either wealthy enough to keep scoring women despite his personality, or really freaking good looking but completely dead behind the eyes. OP has bad taste in men. He isn't wealthy. He and I both make upper middle class incomes. He presents himself as an amazing man in the beginning. Everyone who knows him speaks about what a great guy he is. I did too. About 2 years into our marriage, I began to see some red flags, but I was already in love, so I ignored them. But now that I have my own child to think about, I cannot ignore them anymore. He wants everything to be perfect, but doesn't want to put any work in to make his kids treat you decently. Although it seems like he doesn't treat you or your daughter very well either. So maybe he's just a jerk. He is actually great with our daughter. The only time he ever got upset with the way his adult children behave is when it affected our daughter. Almost like he sees no fault with his children, unless it's affecting one of his children, if that makes sense. Okay, so at best, and even this is a stretch, he is one of those good father but crappy husband kind of guys. He once said he believes he is meant to be a dad, but not a husband. Second update. After reading a lot of the comments, I realized I had been vague about the dynamics of my husband's relationship with his children and grandchildren. He is very active in their lives. He puts a lot into them, just not in the form of gifts. He pays their car insurance, phone bills, sometimes mortgage payments, etc. Anytime they call, he comes to their aid. Some of the red flags I saw in the beginning were how much he invested in his adult children, sometimes neglecting our household. For example, when I was pregnant, I had a high-risk pregnancy and was out of work for a good portion of it, only receiving short-term disability payments, which were significantly lower than my average income. The mattress we had was horrible. It hurt to sleep, especially being pregnant. I asked him if we could buy a new mattress, and he said they were really expensive, but that he would look into it. He never bought that mattress. However, his adult daughter was redecorating her guest room and called him, saying she wanted a new mattress for the guest bed, which was the same size as ours, a queen. He promptly went out and purchased her a new mattress for her guest bedroom. Now for a third update. So, I FaceTimed his second ex-wife last night. I wasn't sure if she would even want to talk with me, being that I'm the new wife. But she did, and we had a pleasant conversation. She disclosed that she and his son, who was an adolescent at the time, never had any issues, but that his daughter, also an adolescent at the time, was a bit difficult. Think princess mentality. She told me stories where my husband blatantly disregarded her feelings when it came to his daughter treating her poorly. She said his daughter always made it clear that she was the queen of her daddy's castle. She eventually separated herself from interacting with his kids, which took a toll on their marriage. She also disclosed that at the beginning of my husband's and my relationship, he was secretly sleeping with his supervisor. This led me to confront my husband, and after hours of denial, he finally admitted it. For context, last summer I caught him texting his supervisor. I told him to leave, but we had a new baby. We started going to marriage counseling for the infidelity, and he swore he had disclosed everything to me. But he never told me they had previously been sexually involved, even during the first few months of our relationship. Now, I'm supposed to believe that after 9 years, they just randomly started texting again, but that nothing else had been going on during all this time we've been married? Needless to say, I contacted a divorce attorney this morning. I'll keep you guys updated on the progress if my attorney feels like it will not have an impact on my case. Sounds like you're in the process of taking out the garbage. Good for you. I missed this the first 2 go-arounds, but I will say that not buying Christmas presents for a small child, you will be seeing at a family party where gifts are being exchanged, is really messed up. If I were invited to a Christmas dinner at a friend's house, knowing gift giving was happening, I'd probably get something for the kids involved. It doesn't matter if they're blood relatives or not. Absolutely, it's just basic kindness. Ignoring a small child during gift exchanges, especially when everyone else is getting something, is just cruel. It's not about the money, it's about making a kid feel included. OP is 100% right to be reevaluating these relationships. Wow, sad. Kudos for contacting the ex. Maybe you should the supervisor too? I am still debating on that. I don't want there to be any retaliation for him though. And my reasoning for that might make me the a-hole. But if he loses his job, that would impact the child support he will be ordered to pay. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling our roommate his kids can't come here anymore, then giving him notice when he refused? A year ago, my husband 31 male and I, 29 female, decided to let an old friend of ours, let's name him Adam, 30 male move in, as his living situation wouldn't allow his children there. All boys ages 7, 4, and 1. We have a daughter age 6, so we felt for his situation. Adam would get the whole basement with his own full-sized fridge. The top floor was ours, and the main floor was a shared common area. Adam was told that common areas were to be kept clean by all parties, and everyone was expected to clean their half of the house themselves. We asked Adam why his kids weren't welcome at his old place. He said that 2 of the 3 kids were not his. He had been with a girl for 2 years on and off, and had a baby with her. However, the people he lived with didn't like him playing daddy to the oldest when they weren't his kids. My husband and I found it very strange, but we agreed that 2 nights a week were okay with us. The first few months were fine, despite having to remind him about cleaning and the smell coming from the basement. Until one morning, I woke up and stood there in horror when I found raw eggs and shells all over the house. I screamed so loud that Adam came running. After seeing what happened, he investigated, then came back up to apologize. His excuse was that he overslept, and the oldest admitted that he went into my fridge and couldn't help himself when he saw the big 30-pack of eggs. From then on, the 2 oldest kept sneaking upstairs early in the morning while Adam slept. They broke things, stole things, ate things, and even started going to the top floor where we lived. Each time, Adam would apologize and promise to do better to keep them under control. My final straw was when I woke up to my brand new Costco pack of ice cream sandwiches, half eaten, melted, and smooshed into multiple surfaces of the house. It started with a lock on the basement door so Adam could keep the kids downstairs while he slept. Then we had to remove the lock on the bathroom door because they started locking themselves in and peeing on all surfaces of the bathroom. We put up a baby gate to keep them out of the living room because they kept stealing and breaking things, but they ripped it down twice. I ended up screwing it into the wall instead. Present day, our house is so locked down that his kids are only able to be in the basement. The smell from the basement is so strong, like sour milk and vomit, that people refuse to come here anymore. Yet Adam keeps claiming there is no smell. Adam has never used a single cleaning product, only baby wipes. The downstairs furniture is all coated in some gross sticky film. There is paint missing from the walls and some holes. When we found out I was pregnant, we decided Adam needed to leave for obvious reasons. We were planning on waiting a little, as we just wanted him to move before the baby was born, and I am only 2 months along. But then, Thursday happened. I was home alone, so I decided to take advantage of it, blasted some music, and started cleaning. An hour later, I went to throw in a load of laundry. When I grabbed the bottle of detergent, it was covered in pee. Pee was everywhere. The laundry tub was clogged with pee. It was on the floor, on the side of the washer, and now all over my hands, everywhere. I cleaned it up, put my load in, and called my husband crying. My husband was mad and messaged our group chat, saying what happened and how the 2 oldest kids couldn't come here any longer. Adam apologized and said how sorry he was that I cleaned it and that it upset me. Then he stated that those were his children, and it was unfair to say they couldn't come here, and that he was going to bring them anyway. Long story short, I snapped. I told him I put a lock on the laundry door and that he had 60 days to move out. Adam just apologized and took his notice. All our family and friends are happy we are kicking him out because the smell is so bad. Yet, some feel we were attacking the kids for being different and say that locking them out of rooms was insensitive. So I need to know, am I the a-hole? Edit. I did not expect this post to blow up like it did, and I appreciate all the comments. But I would like to address the comments about calling CPS. They had a case open for over a year, and it was recently closed. Family Services didn't care about the state of the basement, unfortunately. As I said, the kids are only here twice a week, and this happened over the span of a full year. That's roughly 104 days. Some weekends they were fine. Some weekends they yelled, talked really loud, or had screaming contests nonstop. Not a hurt or in trouble scream, literally one of those screams you do if someone asks how loud you can scream. Other weekends have been obvious hell. This whole thing has been a huge buildup, not one event after another. It's been almost 2 months with no huge out-of-pocket issues, until the laundry room incident. Now for the top comments. Definitely not the a-hole. Your roommate is an immature and negligent a-hat who should probably have CPS called on him. Yeah, letting his kids run wild like that without supervision or discipline is just irresponsible. He brought this on himself. But he's really sorry. No, he's more than sorry. He's sad. A sad excuse for a parent, let alone a grown adult. No wonder he got thrown on OP and her hubby. No wonder he wasn't allowed to be with the kids before. Not the a-hole. Those children are feral. Not your problem. You tried to help a friend, and he pissed on the hand that feeds him, then argued that you should like it. 30 days is more like it. Like literally feral. How is this even so horribly possible? It happens. I had a coworker who agreed to watch a couple of kids, ages around 4 or 5, for a couple of hours while the parents went shopping. The parents didn't come back for 3 days, major meth binge. Meanwhile, those kids kept pooping and peeing on my friend's deck and such, because they had never been potty trained except to just go where they were. I can't even understand why a 4 and 7-year-old would do that. Can't even think of a disorder that would cause that behavior. Most of that is one thing, but the peeing confuses me. Not the a-hole, but something's wrong with the kids. Honestly, I think it's some type of defiant disorder, because he said if they can't calm them down, they will vomit. I don't know if it's forced vomit or stress-induced, but it would explain the smell.